Have you ever looked up at the moon and noticed those darker patches on its surface? Depending on where you are in the world, different cultures see different shapes in those shadows. Some see a face, others a figure. But to the Aztecs, they saw something else entirely. A rabbit, yes, a rabbit. But how did a rabbit end up on the moon? Well, today we're diving into one of the most beautiful Aztec myths, the story of the rabbit in the moon. The Aztecs believed the world was filled with gods who influenced everything around them. These gods shaped the universe, guided the stars, and controlled the cycles of life and death. One of the most famous gods in Aztec mythology was Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. Quetzalcoatl wasn't just a god of wisdom and wind. He was also deeply compassionate, and his kindness played a central role in this story. One day, Quetzalcoatl decided to walk the earth in human form. Disguised as a humble traveler, he wanted to experience life as a mortal, away from his divine powers and responsibilities. For days he journeyed across mountains and valleys, forests and rivers, feeling the warmth of the sun on his skin, listening to the rustling of the leaves and tasting the sweetness of the earth's fruits. But as the day stretched on, the sun dipped below the horizon and night fell. Quetzalcoatl began to feel the exhaustion of his human form. He was tired, weak, and worst of all, hungry. His body, unfamiliar with the pains of mortality, started to fail him. In the darkness, he stumbled, collapsing to the ground under the cold, indifferent gaze of the moon. Alone in the wilderness with no food or shelter, Quetzalcoatl wondered how he would survive the night. It was at this moment of weakness and despair that a small creature approached him. A rabbit. This humble rabbit hopped up to Quetzalcoatl and noticed his suffering. Moved by compassion, the rabbit asked, "What's wrong, traveler? Why are you lying here so weak and frail?" Quetzalcoatl, with what little strength he had left, explained his situation. "I am tired and I am hungry," he said, "but there is no food here for me. I fear I will not survive the night." The rabbit, without hesitation, made an incredible offer. "I don't have much," the rabbit said, "but I can offer myself as your meal. I am small, but I will give you my life so that you may survive." Quetzalcoatl was stunned by this act of selflessness. Here was a tiny, insignificant creature, one that had no power, no divine heritage, no grand destiny, and yet it was willing to offer the greatest sacrifice of all, its own life, for a complete stranger. This simple rabbit was prepared to die so that Quetzalcoatl could live. And in that moment, Quetzalcoatl was reminded of the importance of humility, kindness, and compassion. But Quetzalcoatl, being a god, did not need to accept the rabbit's offer. Instead, he picked up the small creature and held it close to his heart. "You have given me a gift that is beyond measure," he said. "I will not take your life, but I will make sure that your generosity is never forgotten." With that, Quetzalcoatl lifted the rabbit high above his head and, with all the power of the gods, launched it into the sky. The rabbit soared higher and higher until it reached the face of the moon. And there, Quetzalcoatl pressed its image into the surface of the moon for all to see. He wanted to ensure that every time people looked up at the moon, they would remember the story of the rabbit's sacrifice. From that day forward, the rabbit's image has been visible on the moon, a reminder to all who see it of the values of kindness, compassion, and self-sacrifice. The Aztecs would look up at the moon and see the rabbit's silhouette etched forever in the night sky, and they would tell this story to their children, passing it down from generation to generation. So next time you look up at the moon, remember this ancient Aztec tale. What might look like simple shadows to some actually tells the story of a god's journey and the incredible generosity of a small rabbit who offered everything for a stranger in need. It's a story that goes beyond just the Aztecs. It resonates with people everywhere, reminding us of the power of compassion, no matter how small or insignificant we might feel. Interestingly, the Aztecs weren't the only culture to see a rabbit on the moon. In many parts of the world, especially in Asia, the rabbit is also a symbol associated with the moon. In Chinese mythology, for instance, the moon rabbit or jade rabbit is said to live on the moon, tirelessly pounding the elixir of immortality with a mortar and pestle. In Mayan mythology, a rabbit is also connected to the moon. It's fascinating how different civilizations, separated by vast distances, have found similar symbols in the night sky. But for the Aztecs, the story of the rabbit in the moon was more than just an explanation for the patterns on its surface. It was a moral tale, one that highlighted the importance of selflessness and the idea that even the smallest act of kindness can leave a lasting mark on the universe. In a world where gods and humans often interacted, this myth stands out as a reminder that true greatness doesn't come from power or wealth, but from the ability to show compassion to others. Even the smallest among us, the ones who think they have little to offer, can have a profound impact. The moon has always played a significant role in Aztec culture and religion, marking important events and cycles in their calendar. But the rabbit in the moon gave it a deeper spiritual significance. It was not just a celestial body, but a symbol of generosity and sacrifice visible to all who cared to look. So the next time you gaze at the moon, whether it's full, half, or crescent, remember the rabbit in the moon. Remember the story of the kind, selfless rabbit and the God who honored it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be inspired to show a little more compassion to those around you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more myths and legends from cultures around the world. Until next time, keep looking up at the stars. They have more stories to tell than you might think.